Welcome to episode 1 of Unpacking the Brand. My name is Randy Kessler. I'm the digital advertising director at Labels and Labeling. Joining me, as always, Ken Theriot, CEO of TheRiot Agency. You might have seen Ken and myself, some of our videos on LinkedIn last year talking about marketing, digital marketing, branding, etc. We'd like to take the next step and kind of do a full-blown podcast where we dive deeper on a lot of these subjects. So Ken, maybe share with the audience what our goal is with the podcast.
Yeah, no, I think that the goal is really to kind of create more thought behind the answer, right? I think I really appreciated a lot of the feedback that we received from our videos and kind of providing kind of short and to the point answers. But the overwhelming response was, we want to understand how you came to that answer, or more information on how we can apply that information to our specific situation. So they want more of the nuanced detail. And I think that in a podcast format, we're going to be able to provide that information. And so I'm excited to do it.
In a world where brands compete for attention, where innovation meets strategy, and where storytelling drives success, join Ken Theriot and Randy Kessler as they dive into the world of branding, business, and beyond.
Happy to have our first guest, John Hirko. John is the Director of Growth at TheRiot Agency. He has dedicated his career to developing customer-centric growth systems and has become a seasoned expert in business development. This dates back to his days at Flexo Concepts and now where he is working with his old colleague Ken at TheRiot Agency. We're happy to have him as our first guest today, despite being a diehard Notre Dame fan. John, sorry about those Fighting Irish. What's going on, man?
Oh, my good friend Bill Belichick once said, winning is hard. And I was very happy with the journey. Unexpected, but it was a journey. And I'm excited for the team and the program and the direction they're headed right now. So I have no complaints.
Yeah, no, it was a great run. I don't know if the camera can pick up my Badgers head over here. They were terrible this year. We won't go there, but there's a dad at the school where my kids go, and he is a Notre Dame alum and a diehard Buffalo Bills fan, grew up in Buffalo. So you're not down as bad as this guy. Mike, shout out Mike. He's not listening. I won't give his last name, but I promise he's not listening.
Yeah, he's going through it right now, and I'm actually glad you don't have that Badgers hat on in the shot here, because that wouldn't make anyone feel good.
Yeah, no, understood. So let's get right to it. Your title is Director of Growth. I feel like maybe that's a common title we're seeing nowadays, but 5, 6, 7 years ago, that didn't exist. So maybe talk a little bit about what you do. Is that more sales? Is that more marketing? A little bit of both, other things?
Yeah, it's a great question. 7 or 8 years ago when I got the title, I probably didn't fully understand it. But over time, I feel like the skills I developed coming from the industry, and then my new role with the TheRiot Agency is I've kind of settled into focusing on business development, building sales processes and systems, not only for our team internally, but also for our clients, and having a hand in the marketing department. I know our team would probably say, John, you don't do enough, but I have a lot of great ideas. So it's really important to keep that in mind.
John, I also like how you just said new role. Like, aren't you celebrating like 8 years now?
Well, Randy started by saying old colleague. So I'm trying to reduce the age down of this whole entire operation. So.
I apologize to interrupt, but I don't want you thinking you're young and in a new role. You're old and in an old role.
A medium aged. But my current role really developed with my time at Flexo Concepts, which I highly value. Thank you to that team and the leadership over at Flexo Concepts. It was a sales job for sure, but we were also exposed to other things aside from just operating within a sales department. We relied heavily on building the brand at Flexo Concepts. We thought that was really important, and it turned out it was really important. So that was a learning experience for me personally. In, careers past, I really had no marketing experience, but we felt like marketing and sales were two things that were commingled, and the effort that the salespeople put in could help the marketing team, and the marketing team's work and effort helped the sales team, and we treated it as really one department. Obviously, there were tasks that were divvied up to individual people, but personally, I relied heavily on the marketing team to help me do my job, and I felt like vice versa. They expected, my efforts to help them. So that really set me on a path of like just looking at what growth is versus a sales versus marketing, and really like them working together is super important nowadays.
You guys, maybe this is a question for both of you, but you spearheaded the bright orange at Flexo Concepts, right? I remember showing up at a trade show and we're like, whoa, what's going on here?
Well, yeah, we carried the torch. There was a lot of things that created the opportunity for there to be a bright orange, and we came into a product that was being developed that was bright orange, and we helped kind of pick up that torch and throw some gasoline on it and make it something well known and respected.
Yeah, for sure. I spearheaded, I think, is a strong term. I think anyone who knows the brand well knows who is the tip of that spear. As an example, I didn't get my orange underwear until like year 5. So can I really be the spearhead if that's the case?
That's a thing?
It was a thing.
Brand is a brand.
I only ever got a coffee mug in the mail from you guys. All right. Okay. So let's bring this into your current role. Well, I mean, you've been at it, agency started about 7-8 years ago?
This is actually our 10th year, but there was 8 years ago, it became something serious.
Official or serious. Okay. So John, in your experiences, what are some companies struggling within their growth departments? I mean, I know it's a general question, but you're dealing with, manufacturing companies maybe outside of our, the printing industry. What's a common theme you see where they're really struggling?
I would say that everyone struggles. No one is that unique, and they struggle in their own way. I would say some common themes are what I just kind of talked about, a reference. It's misalignment between your marketing team and your sales team, right? Sales team, they're just out in the field. They just do this. They just do that. They don't participate within the business like the marketing team does, like the customer service team does, like even production does, right? Where they're worried about more things happening, orders being placed, orders being manufactured, customer complaints, and the sales team is just out there doing their thing, hopefully bringing back new business and whatnot. So that struggle, print and packaging, yes, I think it's across many industries where there's been a transition in how like old school sales reps are asked to operate. You're no longer just a Rolodex of business. You have to participate in the brand messaging. You're the face of the brand, which is what we learned a lot about at Flexo Concepts for sure. And in participating in that way, you have to be aware of much more that's happening aside from what my pipeline is, what leads I just got. You're probably being asked to manage some aspect of customer service, being the face of the business to your customers. So understanding what's happening more is expected than what's happening less. So, and a lot of what's occurring is, well, we don't really have a system or a process in place to manage that effectively, right? We have our CRM, we have our ERP, we have our marketing automation platform. And those 3 things may not even speak to each other. So the sales people live in the CRM and they're doing very basic rudimentary CRM activity. The finance folks and the production people are living inside the ERP. So they're not really exposed to what's happening on the sales cycle and feeling some of those pains and understanding what's happening in that process. And then you may have your marketing automation platform where your marketing team is just focused on distributing messages and don't get like pain from the customer service team and production side, don't get the intel from the sales team. So being able to collect all those efforts and centralize them is important, and it just allows you to serve your customer better. At the end of the day, it's the customer journey and making the journey desirable for your clients or customers.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would add in that, like, I think, going back to what you asked about the director of growth role, and something that we took part in with Flexo Concepts, but more so in all the brands that we've helped post Flexo Concepts is, I think, specifically in the print and packaging space, but not exclusively in that space, and almost all of the verticals that we work in now. Historically, you've had this. Like, sales is all about relationship, right? It's about creating a relationship and creating some trust. And I think what we're seeing, or what we've seen and what we continue to see, is going from a person to person trust relationship to more of a brand to person trust relationship, where that relationship is expected to be had with a brand and not just one sales person or one individual. And because of that need, you need systems so that the entire organization is creating that relationship with any individual prospect or client. And that's why you need sales, marketing, finance, operations, all those functions, doing what we call scaling intimacy. Like, how do you create a meaningful relationship with an individual at scale? It's by understanding the wants and the needs and all the touch points that they're having with an individual organization, and not just a one-to-one relationship that they might have with a sales rep. Right. And so I think a lot of, like, that the idea of growth is bringing all of those things together into every one of those interactions, where everybody is holding the flag of the brand and can present that united front. And that requires everyone to be on the same page. And that's where I think a lot of systems and processes come into play, because, from individual prospect or client's perspective, like, when they pick up the phone and call a vendor or a supplier of theirs, they expect someone on the other end to be that person, no matter who it is. If they send an email in, or they call, or someone visits them, what the conversations, the interactions that they've had with that company, they're a one-to-one relationship, even though from a supplier perspective, that might be a many-to-one relationship, right? But they don't see it that way. It's me to brand, not me to 15 other people that help produce that outcome for me.
Well, a real world example is pretty simple. I'm sure there's going to be salespeople that listen to this and, call them road warriors and people in the field. And they put a lot of time and effort into getting those appointments, and they're getting harder to get by the moment. And, you roll up to a plant or a manufacturing facility and you walk through those doors, and kind of the traditional way is you're kind of managing that whole relationship. Imagine walking in there and 3 hours earlier, one of the production managers called your company and said, "Hey, we had to stop the press because your product broke or failed, or there's an issue," and you have no knowledge of that. That would flip your whole day in terms of a sales trip on a dime. Like, it would completely change the conversation. Part of that experience that Ken's kind of mentioning is when that person calls, even though they have a relationship with the salesperson, they call customer service. The expectation is that customer service rep is as knowledgeable as that salesperson on their environment and how that product is being used in their environment, so that they can support them just as much as a sales rep can, right? So, and that's all really done by system and process, not necessarily done by, like, I'm not saying it's not hard work, but it's system, process, and strategy.
understand here if you can't mention any specific company names. I wouldn't be able to either using like actual case studies, but is there an example of, in your experience there in your current role, where you could speak to some of the specific things you've done for a certain company to help them align all these different areas or help them kind of grow, from a systems marketing and sales standpoint? Maybe just a Cliff Notes version, but yeah, without mentioning the company name.
Yeah, I'm sure if they're listening, they'll pick up on all this really quickly. But no, I think the music to my ears when we're doing discovery and we're meeting with prospects is the statement, we're the best thing that no one ever knows about, right? And to us, why is that good? It's good because you probably have a great product and you may have a pretty good reputation, but you probably never marketed it. You're probably not very good at servicing it. And for us and our standpoint, there's just so much opportunity for you to grow more with that mindset, right? So how do we do it? At a very baseline, we're probably implementing a CRM system with a marketing automation platform tied to it effectively. If there's opportunity, tie in some of your ERP data. You can do that through integration and all those fun things. Just by starting that exercise, you can now just understand who, what, where, when, why, effectively market to them through some brand messaging and start building like the crawl, walk, run of, I don't have a system or a platform. I have a great product. I may even have some data, but now I can organize it. Now I can monitor what my sales reps are doing. Now we can measure what our marketing team, how they're performing. I can give my sales team some actionable insights to take action on prospects that may be engaging with us. That is like the dream scenario is someone just never has put it together, probably never even really had a strategy, really just leaned on a sales team to build their business, not necessarily lean on a brand to build their business. I'm sure Ken has thoughts on that. I can see it.
Yeah, no, I think that, I don't really have specific thoughts. Oh yeah, I have lots of thoughts, but the question that I was thinking about in my head was, the gap. What I wanted to learn from John is the gap from a company that's being a very sales-driven approach, salesperson-driven. How does a salesperson get comfortable with the idea of putting all the information in and giving up what they feel like is their value, right? How many times, Randy's asking about a case study of who we've helped and stuff like that. And in my head, I'm like, there's plenty of those, but what if someone want to hear right now? The sales rep wants to hear that their job isn't being eliminated because they're being asked to track their opportunities and, better or worse, digitize their relationship, right? The amount of that, we have all these positive use cases. The one thing that is consistently an issue across all of those is when leadership asks us to implement a new CRM and put a sales process in place and apply KPIs to those individual touch points. The people that are deer in headlights are the guys on the road that, feel like their entire livelihood is built into knowing, a specific production manager and operators, kids' names and their anniversary and their birth date and knowing their individual problems and understanding that, well, now we want to use this entire system. So that's not, reliant on you knowing those things, that the brand is going to help you enable that relationship. And I wanted to kind of ask John, in terms of as someone that's been in that role before and helped participate in kind of the digitization of that relationship and kind of leading the forefront, and now doing that over and over again for prospects and clients, what's advice for those sales reps that might be listening right now on, is it going to be okay for them, or is their jobs really getting eliminated?
Well, two thoughts really came to mind when you started there. First is this is not a pharmaceutical commercial, but I've been making old men feel young for a long time. secondly, yeah, I mean, personally, I've been a part of, in my career, three changeovers from CRM, mapping an old CRM to a new CRM as an employee. And yeah, I mean, sales team, a lot of tears, just tears. I mean, you get used to doing the same thing over and over again, and you feel like you've kind of tucked that part away. But my message to those guys a lot of times is most of you are going to be fine, and most of you will find opportunities to thrive in this sort of environment, even though, you know, like, what is that environment? The environment is a more process-driven sales approach or procedure, and that should benefit you tremendously. Like, as a salesperson, kind of mentioned like my value as a salesperson. I made the relationship with Jason, the production manager. That's awesome. Thank you, John, for creating that relationship and working that for us and making him feel good and knowing his daughters and knowing birthdays and all that. Guess what? Jason is going to get fired tomorrow. And we're not sure if he's going to get another job in the industry. So it's really important for you to put all the information that you know about Jason and all of Jason's colleagues into our CRM so that you can go back into that plant and not have to start from zero. You can start creating relationships with people almost immediately. You should be creating relationships outside of your main point of contact anyways, if possible. But that's what those tools allow you to do. Things are going to change outside of your control as a salesperson constantly. And I mean, we were just talking with Randy a few minutes ago before the call started about, you know, the how time kills all deals, prospects change jobs. And, you know, that's something we should always be aware of. These tools allow you to pivot and change and react a lot quicker. It's also, generally speaking, you can stay a lot more organized. I played college football. Randy brought up college football, passionate about it to a degree. I also wore a helmet for 10 years. So I can almost guarantee that there's some, you know, slowing of the memory over time as I approach my late younger years. So I need a tool to like remind me when to do things. Like, when's the last time I talked to this person? What's the next task? And that sort of organization is what these tools can provide a salesperson. There's 1,000 extensions I could speak to in terms of examples of using the tool aspect of the CRM to help a sales rep. Automated emailing, even when you're traveling, like, can I send emails that are automated so I don't have to physically try to line up all these sales trips? Like, there's a lot of things that can help you. And also, so from a sales management standpoint, and I know a direct sale, like a sales rep in itself, may not appreciate it as much, but being able to measure something and understand it, data, like one thing I think we'll get to at some point if we have time is the importance of data and not just data, but clean data. But how long does it take me to close a deal? I don't want it to take forever, but if you don't really track it and if you don't understand it, how are you supposed to affect it, right? So it may seem like those things are big brother watching, or I'm under some new restrictions. All of it really is a opportunity for you to leverage tools, information, and insights to do your job a lot better. And yes, generally speaking, they're old, or maybe older, or may not have experience with these systems. There's plenty of people in their mid-30s or late 30s, early 40s that have never touched these systems either, all right? There's still some data point from HubSpot or Salesforce that says 40% of companies don't leverage a CRM. So 40% of the sales people out there have never touched a system like this. The expectation is that you could learn them. So it's not just old people. The silver tsunami, as one of our new clients mentioned the other day, that there's certainly a wave of people aging out of industry and retiring. But there's still challenges for younger people. They have perceptions about things, and you know, they may feel a little apprehensive about more structure based upon their feelings. But all of it really is to to grow, obviously, and to grow effectively and with purpose. So their jobs, you guys are going to be okay out there. I can't promise you. We've lost a couple along the way, but they may have been lost without any changes. How about that?
So if somebody's listening and they're thinking about what you just said and they're like, oh boy, we need to get on board with this kind of thing. How long does implementation take to get all this stuff aligned? I mean, is that a year-long process? Is that multiple years? Can it be done quicker than that?
I mean, the first question is going to be, how structured and organized is your data?
Yep. Is there any data? What do you have? What's in place?
Like how process oriented are you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the quickest turnarounds, and these are the saddest turnarounds. There's nothing in place. There's no process. And we just have some ERP data that we use to manage our production process. Without anything being there, we can quickly build something, right? Like we can rely on the sales leadership to build out a quick sales process with our oversight. We're able to collect the minimal data that exists, probably clean it up a little bit, and then, in a crawl, walk, run scenario, you're probably crawling pretty quickly. That's not to say that we're at a finish line. That's just we're able to literally
value.
crawl. We're able to get in the car and press on gas. We're not using cruise control. We're not even pressing the gas hard. We're not even sure the brakes work, but we're able to do something. So short timeline, I would say we're talking weeks, not months, depending on size and scale. If you have a enterprise level CRM and you want to make a wholesale transformation into a new enterprise CRM with established process, with uncontrolled data, and a bunch of sales reps that don't like you to begin with, and now you're asking them to change on the fly, you're talking more months than weeks. But culture eats
Strategy for breakfast.
Strategy for breakfast. A lot of times when leadership is asking, well, how long is this going to take? You have to look back at them and you tell me how important this is to you. Because if you're going to carry the flag with them, we can make this happen. But if you're just going to cubbyhole this into a side of your office and focus on other things and not make it a priority for your team, you're asking for a disaster. So I hope that answered your question. Typically,
yeah, it's tough. I get that. I mean, there's no two situations
you
are
can somewhat predict how long it's going to be is if you get the stakeholders in the room and you just utter the words change and just look at the facial expressions of everyone. If everyone's excited about something new, then it's probably going to go pretty quickly, and it won't be perfect, but if people are willing to accept it, they see solutions and they don't see problems. But if everyone gets a little queasy and is apprehensive, then it might not work at all, and it could be very painful. So a lot of it has to do with culture, and really getting everyone on board before you pull the trigger on anything. That's why a lot of the times, at TRA, we try to get involved in the organization before they've made the decision that they want to move to a new CRM. You start working on adopting new processes long before the platform's actually been selected, right? You start identifying where there will be efficiencies and the value in, value out is such an important component of new technology. It's we need you to put something into it, but also get something out of it. And way too often, organizations kind of push it down kind of the organizational structure with the just saying what everyone's going to have to do to make it work, not what the experience will be for them in terms of how it'll enable them to do more, be more efficient, or make their job smoother, or earn them more income if they just do their part.
Alignment for sure.
Big time.
That's probably one thing most organizations struggle from, regardless of industry, is alignment.
Yeah. So a lot of this has been kind of macro level, right? I mean, we could do different episodes where we do deep dives on just a CRM, right? I mean, there's some terminology we touched on that, I mean, some people listening might not even know what those, what some of that stuff means, but that can be for a different episode. I did want to talk about just some kind of just basic marketing and branding things. Say somebody's on a budget, small business on a budget. I mean, what are some things they can do to help build their brand? It might not be, full service agency type things, but just, people listening that might not have a huge marketing budget. What are some things they can do?
Yeah, I mean, effort is low cost. Trying things, that's definitely low cost. Organic social, I mean, with tools in place right now, there's no excuse not to organically produce content. There's obviously recommendations and guidelines that we would mention and discuss in that conversation. But yeah, there's a lot of things you can do on a very low budget. Outbound phone calls, strategy itself. It doesn't take a lot aside from meeting and understanding where you're trying to take your business, who are the people that you're trying to speak to, and how we're going to communicate to them. If you can't find that answer, I would recommend finding an outside resource on a budget-friendly engagement to figure that stuff out. Once you have that stuff established, a lot of the things you can do aren't truly that budget restrictive. There's obviously a lot of things you can do that are more budget unfriendly. But understanding some of your core fundamentals is super important. And it usually just starts at who we are, what is our brand, who are we communicating to, what do they care about, and then how do we communicate to them on a budget? Organic social, content on your website, refreshing that's low hanging fruit that you can affect.
Well,
I don't know, Ken, if you have a
no, I definitely. I've been doing this for 2 decades plus now, and tons of campaigns with a wide variety of different budgets, big, small, everything in between, different tools, verticals, and there's 4 things that every successful marketing department, growth department has had, whether or not they realize that those were the things that they had or not. But it's consistency, do it consistently. If you're going to do even if it's something small, do it consistent, right? Focus on data, be able to create data from your consistent efforts. Right. And then if you're doing something consistently and you're generating a statistically relevant amount of data, you then can do the third pillar, which is optimize it. Look for people have heard the term A/B testing, the idea of trying one thing and then trying another thing. And then the thing that works better than the other, do more of that. And if you constantly look to measure your activities against each other and do more of the things that work and less of the things that don't, you'll naturally get better at the things that you're doing. And then the 4th thing is just be as personalized with it as you can, right? It's not, you can be hyper personalized in so many different ways, but being personalized might just mean speaking to a specific role or vertical or whatever you're capable of doing. Make it as personalized as you can. So, data, optimization, consistency, and personalization. Every campaign that I've ever seen, every department that I've seen be successful has embodied those 4 things in some shape. If they were intentionally doing it or not intentionally doing it, they had those things. So I think budget that's an easy way for organizations to feel like, oh, we're too small. It's you're too small to try. It doesn't make any sense, it's just a cop out. We hear that all the time, and that oh, we're too small to do any of this stuff. It's like, that is a lame excuse. Like, you're too, like, if I think that's just try. Not that hard.
Effort. I think effort is one, and thanks for mentioning the continuing the effort. Is fly-by-night campaigns and fly-by-night trends are not that successful, and people feel that way and they get a little discouraged. But just trying and staying consistent on top of measuring it, and then I think it is a challenge for people to understand who they are talking to and the things they care about. But if you start doing those 3 to 4 things, you'll create momentum for sure.
I mean, I was in a prospect meeting not that long ago, and this is a $60-70 million software development company, and they consider themselves a small business. And this is one of the things me and John always laugh about. Like, we could talk to a company that's doing 5 million, 3 million, 5, whatever, like single digit revenue numbers, and they act like a hyper growth large company. You never hear them talk about being a small business. And then we can go talk to a company that's doing $100 million, and they're like, we're just a small company. And it's like, it's so relative. And I bring this company up because they tried one direct mail piece, right? Like, they tried one direct mail piece, just a single flyer, and it didn't work. They sent it to like 400 or 500 people. They didn't get a lot out of it. And they're like, oh, well, we've tried direct mail. It didn't work. And I'm like, I'm not saying if it's going to work or not work. What I'm saying is that, like, you didn't try direct mail. Like, you act like, okay, well, that entire channel is dead to us now because we sent out a letter and it didn't work. And it's like, that is not how it works. Like, where's your consistency? Where's the data? How'd you optimize it? They did personalize it. But they're like, oh, well, we can't do that again. And it's just like, you totally missing the point on how to make this all work. And it's like a lot of the prospects and clients that we work with, like, it's such an important component. Like, you got to be committed to this. You can't just like try one time and then be like, oh, it didn't work. And if we often tell customers, like, we'd rather try something small for a long time than something large one time.
Yes.
Right. Like, because the ability to get better is so predicated on your commitment to continually doing it. So I don't know, your small budget, that's a lame excuse.
Touched a nerve there.
Yeah, geez, Ken, settle down. I think too, companies maybe underestimate how much they should invest in marketing. We oftentimes might see somebody that's marketing is a part-time role. They're also in sales. They're also doing product management, and their expectations are too high, but they're not investing in the role. It seems backwards.
100%.
It is. Yeah. Well, I think that's that's kind of the times are changing, where, a lot of your marketing was a support function of sales, right? It was making a brochure or packing the trade show booth or, doing those kind of things. And it was a sales enablement. And I think that nowadays it's almost reversed completely, or at a minimum, those two things have come together. Right. Marketing is kind of leading the way and hopefully generating qualified leads. It was years ago that at Inbound that HubSpot, came out with the statistic that 80% of the purchasing decision is held by the buyer and they're doing it. And then the last 20% is on the sales function of an organization to meet or exceed the expected experience, right? So they are doing the research, and then they want to talk to someone as an informed buyer, and they want you to confirm their already held beliefs. And if you are misaligned in what they thought, then you lose it. or if you are aligned with what they thought, you get it. Right? No one wants to be sold anymore. They want to buy. And that's why marketing has really taken a lot of that. And, that's just the power of the internet and the power of people able to go out there and search for their needs. Right. So it's important for, brands and companies to make that change.
All right. Well, I think, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of different directions we could go here, but I think this is good for sort of our pilot podcast episode. Would be great to have you back again in the future, John, just to see how you see things evolve within the space and, be a regular guest with us with your knowledge and insights. But I did want to end with a little rapid fire. This is something we'll do for all our guests. So just 4 rapid fire questions here for you real quick, John, in the branding and marketing space. First off, what's your favorite brand?
Notre Dame.
And your least favorite brand?
It's a good question. Who am I gonna throw on the bus here?
None of your clients, I hope.
Honestly, this is gonna sound strange, but probably TB12.
Okay. I could see that. I could see that. Super Bowl Sunday's coming up quick. Favorite Super Bowl ad of all time?
I lean heavy on Budweiser. I mean, you get those horses going. One year they had one of them kick a field goal. I mean, I was a backup kicker in college. That wasn't my primary position. So, take that. So I always appreciate when, there's a lot of creativity. But Budweiser always, you're either getting a tier or you're running to the fridge.
Are you too young to remember the old Bud Bowl ads? Those were legendary.
That's vaguely, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, I was probably 8 or 9. Okay, last one. Best business book or your favorite business book you've ever read?
Not much of a reader. Just kidding. Read all the time. Most effective one that we probably put into practice most recently is Traction, EOS. So we've implemented that internally here, and it's been a really good organizational tool for us, and that kind of led us down the path of offering our services in a very similar fashion. We feel like the structure that it provides people resonates deeply. And Ken kind of mentioned those 4 pillars. That's really what it's built on. So a lot of small business people are probably familiar with that book, EOS.
Awesome.
In general.
Outstanding. Ken, anything else you want to add, or are we good here for the pilot?
No, I appreciate John being on, and I think I'm excited for we have some future episodes lined up, and we'll more to come on those things. But I'm excited for this. I think we saw a lot of success in kind of our short bites, sound bites and clips before, and but I'm a firm believer that I think we're seeing a shift where people don't information is so readily available and so easy to get now that people can get answers. What is more interesting to people is how you came to that answer, right? Information is easy to obtain, but the thought process to get there is not as easy to understand. So I think that's where we're seeing a much more long form content become successful, and I think that's what our hope to create here is not just the right answer, because there is no right or wrong answers. You need to adopt philosophies and proper thought processes. So I think that's my hope. Thanks so much for joining us on Unpacking the Brand. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And if you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you have a moment, we'd love it if you could share this podcast with your network or leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people who are passionate about business, branding, and innovation.